Hello, I'm Charley Martinez, and I'm the Farmer Financial Management Extension Economist with the University of Tennessee. In today's presentation, I'm going to be going over the economic considerations in terms of the usage of chicken litter in the field. Throughout my presentation, I'll reference previous research that has been conducted by Dr. Sean Hawkins and his colleagues, who are also with the University of Tennessee. So first question that comes to my head was, well, who can use chicken litter? Well, most producers can utilize chicken litter in their production system. And these producers can include people that produce cotton, sorghum, soybean, corn, any type of cover crop, any type of grasses. I've put fescue down there, but any type of hay production, most of these producers can utilize chicken litter in their production system. And so now that we know who can use it, where does it come from? As most of us know, that Tennessee is a poultry producing state in terms of breeding stock and broiler production. And so here I put on the screen for you to look at is these triangles represent packing plants with a 25-mile radius. So the circle is a 25-mile radius, and that's where you'll find general production and most of the production for each packing plant. But also we'll have breeding stock scattered throughout the state. And so by nature, we have a regional difference. Here we have Western production, kind of have this South Central production, and then we have this Northern and Northeast side production in our state in terms of poultry production, therefore litter production. So not only is it different from a regional standpoint, and the supply is different from a regional standpoint, but also not all litter is the same. It depends on what was used as the bedding, what was the turnaround of the chicken house itself. All that stuff affects the nutrient quality or the value of the chicken litter inside that house in terms of whenever you're going out to look at and buy chicken litter to use in your production system. And so by nature of the regionalization of the industry, we also get higher quantities in certain regions. So if you were here in the central side, of course, you won't have much. You'll have to go out and find it either in the western side or the south central side in order to find your chicken litter if you were wanting to purchase some. And so that gives us different demand, and we have regional supply. But as most of us know, we have a growing poultry industry here in the state. And so our abundance and our supply of chicken litter over time is probably going to increase. Therefore, in terms of production and as an input cost, we could start thinking about that from an economic standpoint. Is there something to be gained here in order to increase our profit margins? And so now we know who and where who can use chicken litter and where it comes from. Well, when can you use chicken litter? You can utilize chicken litter all year round depending upon your production style. Of course, if you have corn versus hay production, the usage of fertilizer is going to be a little bit different. And more research is being done on the row crop side in terms of using chicken litter and what is the gain from the protein standpoint and the quality of the crop being harvested. And that's where Dr. Sean Hawkins is doing a little bit more research. And so that would be something to look forward to in the future. But in previous research, Dr. Hawkins has also come up with where you don't want to apply chicken litter. So we know when we can apply it, but is there a certain place we shouldn't? And here I think this is a good photo from some of his previous research that kind of shows where we don't want to apply chicken litter. And so we have to be careful and aware whenever we're using it, especially if we have wet winters like we did this past winter. If we were to apply it, we were probably going to get if we were going to apply our chicken litter, we probably would have had a lot of runoff and therefore lost all the value that we had in terms of using it as an input. And so we got to be wary of that. But also when you apply it, you want to apply it right before you plant. So for instance, if we're going to plant here in the next couple of days, we would have wanted to have already put the chicken litter out either yesterday or today. And so you want to close that gap as much as you can. You don't want to put chicken litter out 2 months in advance of using it. And so we started getting to some of the other questions, and I put these up there kind of how I think about it. And it's like, okay, well, how much does it cost? How much do I need? And so from the first standpoint, or from the get-go, you need to know where your soil is and where your soil is from a nutrient standpoint and where your litter is from a nutrient standpoint, so that we can balance out. And so when you're sending off your chicken litter for testing, you want to use a lab that's been certified by the Minnesota Department of Agriculture Manure Testing Laboratory Certification Program. Say that 5 times fast, pretty hard. And then when you're doing soil sampling, here at Tennessee, you can use soil samples at the University of Tennessee Extension Soil Plant and Pest Lab in Nashville and/or at Waypoint Analytical in Memphis, Tennessee. And so you might see those on questions later on. So just remember those two things. First, you want to test your soil and then test your litter. And then by way of your soil results and your litter results, you'll figure out how much you need to complement each other in order to be productive. And so now we kind of get to the money side and the economic side of the how much question I had. And so here we went and surveyed and we kind of gathered that it's about $42 to $45 per ton of chicken litter. And that includes being hauled and spread out. I would recommend to always get it spread out just because it's something that you don't have to worry about. You don't have another cost of the labor to go out and put it out into your fields. And so we know how much it costs. Well, how much do I need? Again, that's going to go back from what your soil standpoint is. Dr. Sean Hawkins has come out with kind of a conversion of how much you'll need, a unit conversion of the chicken litter. Once you get your chicken litter quality report, you can convert it to how much you need to put per acre, depending upon your production system. And so the real benefit, though, that comes in is that whenever you use chicken litter, you're basically putting money in the bank. When I say that, I mean when you apply chicken litter and commercial fertilizer, whenever you take a crop off of it, of wherever you applied it, there's going to be nutrient loss because of the crop taking out the nutrients whenever you're harvesting. Well, the difference of chicken litter is that inside this $42, $45, you're going to get some residual because some of the nutrients are going to stay inside the field after you harvest the crop. And so not only are you paying $42 to $45 per ton right now, but you're giving yourself some credit, some nutrient credit, and putting money in the bank of the nutrients staying inside the soil after you harvest the crop. And so over time, you're giving yourself an extra boost of nutrients to the point where you can increase the value or the quality of your soil, and then therefore you can decrease the input needed of fertilizer. If you were to choose fertilizer or chicken litter, the following year your need for it starts decreasing, and therefore your costs and your input costs start decreasing because you increase the value of your soil over time. So you're kind of giving yourself credit that way. And so from an economic standpoint, is that better than paying every year for whatever fertilizer you need? So I've kind of put here how much it is per ton in terms of the NP and K choices that we have in our state. And so if you just look at the prices, $42 to $45 per ton for this year, and we're getting nutrient upgrade in our soil for next year, for the following years, to me that starts making logical sense from an economic standpoint, that you're basically giving yourself money in the bank as you buy now. You're buying for the future of your and increasing the quality of your soil in the future, no matter what your production system is. And so to me, from an economic standpoint, it would be, of course, depending upon yield per acre and stuff of that nature. And that's why I didn't really want to show it on a simulation example for you of using it. Just think about it from an economic standpoint. As we increase chicken litter, we're increasing the value. It's going to be dependent upon from a production standpoint, the producer and how they do other things that will say, okay, is it worth it? I think looking at the prices from abroad and knowing that you're giving yourself some extra credit, and there's also other nutrients, and you'll see if you've ever seen a nutrient report from a litter sample report, there's many other things that you're also putting inside your soil that's not put in by commercial fertilizer. And so from an economic standpoint, I think that's where the biggest benefit is that you're putting money in the bank. You're helping your soil and therefore decreasing the need for it in the future, which is going to decrease your input cost and increase your profit margins. And so what's next? Of course, as I mentioned, it depends on your soil. If the soil comes back with lower scores, more litter over time will be required in order to catch up to high quality soil. And soil that's high grade will only need a little bit of litter, but you are still lowering your input cost because you're still increasing that nutrient value over time, and therefore decreasing your input costs. And of course, as I mentioned, in terms of litter production, it's going to depend upon the quality of the litter. Certain litter has different nutrient quality. So say you have high soil, high grade in terms of your soil sample, you could take a lower grade of chicken litter at a cheaper price and still get value out of it because you got such high quality soil. And therefore, you're also helping your input costs there from a balance sheet standpoint. And so it's also going to depend on how many acres you want and how many acres you're going to be planning to spread on, and at what poundage or what tonnage per acre you want to put a chicken litter. That's going to depend upon it. And then also it's going to depend what you're trying to produce. Hay and grasses don't require or wouldn't need as much chicken litter, but you're still helping yourself out. Whereas row croppers, for instance, that are harvesting crop and taking off nutrients all the time and every year, the chicken litter, you can get a value out of that because you're replacing the nutrients and increasing the value of your soil as you put more chicken litter on it. But also you're going to have to be wary about when you apply it, especially if you're in a hay field. I wouldn't recommend using it in the winter if you're just doing hay production, because you probably most likely you're going to get some runoff, and therefore you're losing the value that you've put into the soil in terms of the input of the chicken litter. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it kind of educational. And again, my email is there at cmart113@utk.edu if you'd like to email me if you have any questions or comments or concerns. And if you're on Twitter, at Farm Management or Farm MGT is my Twitter handle. If you want to follow us or follow me, I update any kind of farm economy stuff that happens in our state. But with that, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us for the field day, and I hope you find the other videos helpful, and holler if you ever need anything. Thank you.